Absolutely delighted now to be joined by James McKenna. Professor, welcome.
Thank you, Stephen.
Very nice to see you today. Now, we're talking about co-sleeping. What do you mean by co-sleeping?
Co-sleeping is not the radical concept most people think. It refers to any situation in which a mother or baby or a caregiver, mom, dad, or anyone actually, is in sensory range of their baby enough so that the baby and the parent can exchange signals and cues, sensory modalities like touch and smells and visual inspects, etc. So as many cultures as there are in the world, there are as many ways to co-sleep, but the requirement is a caregiver that is concerned with the baby and is within sensory range so that they can detect and respond to the baby's needs.
And babies rely on that, don't they?
Yes, they do. Human infants are born with only 25% of their brain volume at birth, and the least neurologically immature of the primate, the more the dependence on the caregiver insofar as regulating the physiology of that particular infant. And human babies take the award for having the greatest needs insofar as tactile and sensory exchanges with a caregiver because they are so immature.
But in our society, it's not always looked upon as a good thing.
No, it's not often looked at as a good thing, only because there is a confusion between the ways in which one co-sleeps and the act of co-sleeping itself. Everybody would agree that it's important for babies to sleep within proximity of the mother. What the debate is all about is whether the baby should be in the bed with the mother. And therein, you're looking at the conditions within which the baby can be in bed with the mother. Breastfeeding babies have a very different physiology and have a different sort of behavioral pattern with their mothers than a bottle-feeding baby in bed with the mother. So I, for example, if I'm asked, would say, well, it's much safer for a breastfeeding baby to be in the bed with the mother than a bottle-feeding baby. Our laboratory studies have shown, for example, that the breastfeeding baby's sleep is very light, they wake up a lot, they're very sensitive to the movements and the activities of the mother, and vice versa. The breastfeeding bed-sharing mother is very sensitive to her baby. She arouses within 2 seconds of the baby arousing, for example, and she sleeps in lighter sleep, which means she's much more aware where the baby is and what the baby might need or her positionality with respect to the baby. So it tends to prevent that kind of rolling over. In fact, we've been able to discover a kind of a universal position that mothers assume when they're in a bed or on the same surface with their babies. They kind of arch around their babies on their sides, and the babies fall underneath the mom's sort of tricep at mid-level to the chest so the baby can get to and from the breast.
How does your work, or how would you like your work to actually affect public policy and the discussion on this?
Well, there hasn't been too many voices, as you probably know, Steve, advocating an informed choice to sleep with your baby. I don't recommend that everyone jump in bed with their babies because it's complicated, right? How the parents feel, whether it is safe, whether they're aware of what the safety factors are. But what's happened in our culture is right now there are campaigns against any and all bed sharing, wherein 80% of all breastfeeding mothers are in bed with their babies because breastfeeding and bed sharing, or co-sleeping, it happens to be beds in our culture, but co-sleeping, are functionally interconnected. Our studies have shown, for example, that mothers breastfeeding doubles or triples when they're with their baby. They actually, even in light of that, they get more sleep rather than less sleep, and the babies cry less and the babies get more sleep. They're very happy. So it's just the way in which that system works. And the reason our culture kind of evolved or developed this notion that it was bad to sleep with babies is we were a bottle-feeding culture. And Freud was around telling everybody that you're going to sexualize your baby if you have too much contact with the baby. Well, he obviously didn't take any anthropology, because if it's anything that primates are, it's contact seekers because of this neurological immaturity. There's no way you can prevent a baby from seeking contact with its mother because that's what's in the baby's best interest.
Well, thank you very much indeed for joining us today. We appreciate that.
Thanks, Steve. Thanks for the good questions.
Thank you.